New pinball machine released today from Stern Pinball, Black Knight Sword of Rage. That's how you gotta say it. You gotta say Sword of Rage. Today, we're going to talk with Tim Sexton from Stern Pinball. He is the lead software designer on Black Knight Sword of Rage. That will be episode 249 of Coast to Coast Pinball. So, let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast, a commentary, an interview show, and I'm a man out of quarters. How y'all doing? Coming to you guys, here's a little look behind this. You want to know the secret? I'm actually coming to you guys, not live, from Amsterdam, North Holland, the Netherlands here on March 21st. But we're going to pretend it's Tuesday, March 26th, okay? So really, I'm coming to you Tuesday, March 26th, 2019. Not live, and we're here to talk with Tim Sexton about Black Knight Sword of Rage. I'll stop saying that now, I'm sorry. But anyway, I just want to jump into the interview. Had a great time talking with Tim. I appreciate Stern Pinball reaching out. And I also want to thank Tim, who was such a gentleman. He said to me after this interview, he said, "Hey, Nate, you want to talk to Steve? Like Steve Ritchie?" And I'm like, "Will that work?" And he goes, "Yeah, we could try it." And so episode 250 is going to be right behind this one with a brief conversation with the king, Steve Ritchie. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, Stern Pinball. And looking forward to seeing the game. Here's the interview with Tim. Take care. All right, I want to welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball, Mr. Tim Sexton. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Nate. How are you?
Good. Do you like how I go from, like, calm and cool and we're just talking about the game voice to, like, hey, I'm on a podcast voice now, like I'm some sort of chump? You like that?
Yeah, that was really interesting. It's good performance, I think. Good showmanship.
It's really bad. I'm self-aware
enough
to
know. Professional.
Something. How are you?
I'm doing great. Really good news coming out.
Dude, it's new game time. New game time's the best time.
This game I've been working on for the past... It is the best time. This is what I've been looking forward to for a really long time. It's been a lot of hard work to get here, of course, but I'm really happy with what everyone's seeing right now. Everyone's taking a look at, what the new thing is, and they ought to be really excited about it because I know I am, and I know there's a lot of cool stuff in here, and we'll cover a lot of it today.
So Black Knight Sword of Rage. I feel like I have to do a deep monster voice when I say the word Sword of Rage together. Is that title completely serious, or is there any irony to that?
There's no irony to the title. That's what Steve wanted to go with. He wanted people to make sure that they knew it was like a new chapter of the Black Knight story. This wasn't just a continuation. This was like same character, but everything else is pretty much brand new.
I love it. And
so the Sword of Rage is a key element of the game that sort of motivates the plot, motivates the player a little bit. Now that we can tell a little more story with our LCD screen, with our, the things that we've had luckily happening to pinball in the past 30 years since Black Knight 2000, a bunch of new technologies come in so we can do a lot more with the story. So we just wanted to, convey that, hey, this is a new game, Sword of Rage. This isn't just a sequel. It's everything, it's a ton of stuff.
It's been 30 years since Black Knight 2000, is that right? No. How long has it been since Black Knight 2000?
1989.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's crazy. Well, I'm excited because we have an original title. We have something that's new based. I mean, granted, it's I get it. It was a Williams game, but it's like IP that you can tell a story of your own. You're not tied to a movie or a comic book or anything. I think that's pretty awesome. So just for anybody listening that doesn't know you, Tim, give me the kind of Cliff Notes version on how Tim Sexton, computer programmer, who I believe worked for, I want to say IBM. Is that right?
Yes, I was at IBM.
You were at IBM. How do you end up at Stern Pinball as the lead software designer on Steve Ritchie's new game?
That is a very good question. I'm happy to tell you about it because it's been a pretty incredible journey for me. I've been here at Stern now for about 14 months, and it was a great decision. But going back in time, I'm a pretty young guy, so yeah, I'm actually younger than the previous Black Knight game. I'll throw that one out there so people can moan and groan. But so I sort of grew up at a time when pinball really was on the way out for a while. And, I was growing up in the 2000s, and people know that there weren't a lot of pinball arcades. There weren't even a lot of arcades in general. So it wasn't until about 2013 when I got into pinball. And because I was a little older, I was in college at the time, and there was a couple places I could play in college and a couple places I could play back when I was home for the summer that had collections of pinball machines, and then there were some new ones, some old ones. I was like, wow, this game's really awesome, all these games. And Black Knight 2000 was actually one of the first games I played in 2013 at the Pinball Gallery, which was in Downingtown, Pennsylvania at the time. And I really thought it was an awesome game. It had like that, it's cheesy now, but like that 80s choir soundtrack, that like heavy metal music that's clearly done through a computer, that sort of stuff. And I was like, wow, pinball really had some cool stuff. This is from the 80s. This is awesome, And then you're seeing more and more contemporary games come out, and I got more and more involved in the tournament scene. And I'm just sort of, diving headfirst into pinball like a lot of people have recently, as pinball has been on this huge resurgence back up. And so just going into the tournament scene and everything, I was actually playing in the 24-hour Final Battle tournament, and Zach Sharp was there. Zach Sharp had recently been hired as director of marketing at Stern Pinball in 2017, and I talked to him about how I was thinking about, maybe changing my job up a little bit. I was working at IBM at the time for 3 years, and he said, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a software engineer. He's like, oh, okay, that's interesting, and then didn't really think anything of it. And then a couple weeks later, I get an email from Zach that said, like, hey, Tim, do you mind shooting your resume over this way? And I said, oh, this is interesting. I never really had, thought about, seriously working at Stern Pinball, working in the pinball industry. But I said, hey, what the heck? It's just an interview. I'll send my resume over. I wound up doing a phone interview after that with like a lot of really powerhouse guys in the industry. I know Dwight Sullivan was there, Tanya Kleiss was there, George Gomez was there, and talking to these guys, and they said, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? A couple weeks later, I flew in for an interview and still didn't really know what I was getting into, but they were seriously talking about bringing me on as a support software engineer at Stern Pinball to help with, the growing number of games and the workload with the LCD display and all sorts of other stuff. But with the keep in mind, like, eventually in this position, you could become a lead game developer, which is something I said I was interested in getting into when I worked there. So interview went great. I wound up getting hired as a support engineer, and I worked on Iron Maiden when I first got there, did some light shows and some other, minor but important things on that game. Then I wound up working on Deadpool most of last summer to help lead developer Tanya Kleiss and game designer George Gomez bring that game to life. And then Steve at that time needed someone to develop his game, which was Black Knight Sword of Rage. And Steve was actually the one who said, hey, what's that new guy doing? Does he think he might want to be a lead game developer? And he probably said that to George, and George was like, I don't know, we'll talk to him. And I said, yeah, that sounds awesome. So then I've been on board with Steve for the past 6 months developing this game and bringing it to life, and it's really been quite a journey. I've had a lot of fun, put a lot of work in, and now this is really going to be the day where everyone gets to see what I've been working on, my sort of first foray as a lead game developer, and I'm really excited for it.
So you're putting out your first game as the lead developer, and this is probably Steve's, I don't even know how many games he's put out. Dozens and dozens, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd have to go count it somewhere. How excited is Steve, or is it just like business as usual?
never with Steve is it business as usual. Steve brings an incredible amount of passion to every single game he works with. I mean, he really cares about every single thing, every way the ball is going to interact with the play field, what it's going to look like. Is it exciting enough? Steve, I don't think he's in any point when he's been working on games has said like, nah, it's good enough. He's always there every day, making sure the game's better. So he's not at all, mailing it in. He's 100% engaged in this game, making it the best it could be, like he's been with every game, I'm sure, in his career, because he's, the king for a reason. He's put a lot of effort into a lot of great games, and he knows what it takes. And he's helped me come along to realize, like, how much effort you have to put into the games and how to make it shine.
Definitely. So working as like an assistant or a support person on the first two games you worked on Deadpool and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other one. You just told me. Iron Maiden. Boy, it's amazing that you guys might have made a more metal game than Iron Maiden with this new game. I didn't think that was possible, but it seems to be the case. What was your like day-to-day shift like going from support to lead? What was the start of that like? I mean, that seems like a lot more responsibilities, but probably in a lot of ways a lot more freedom and kind of excitement.
It really wasn't that crazy, I guess. I was really enthusiastic when I got here about just kind of learning everything I could about pinball game development, pinball software development. I mean, I'd come from, the competitive world where people are analyzing every single strategy, every scoring exploit they could find, what scores more than this, and then sort of diving into more of the details that you overlook a little bit, like where to play sound effects, where to do light shows, how to actually, design the paths through the game to enter the modes and the multi-balls and stuff like that, how to make it fun for the players. That stuff was like really exciting because, I got to sort of see it from the inside. So every project I've been on here, I've probably been almost annoyingly enthusiastic for the people working on the game to be like, hey, you have any more work to do? Hey, I saw this is a little messed up. You mind if I take that over? And people have been like, sure, you want to work on something? Go ahead,
I'll go home. You do this. No.
Yeah. So it's been a lot like, with Maiden, I came into that project and it was pretty far along. But there are a few things where I was like, hey, this here, I've noticed that it's done this way in other games because I'm looking through other projects and I'm seeing, how we typically develop games, what are the standards so I get acclimated to the game. But still, I have a knowledge of C++. I have a knowledge of software development, so it's not, and I have a knowledge of pinball, so it's not crazy to see, any piece of code I'm looking at, what does that mean? What does that do? So that's been a really big leg up for me to understand and quickly get on board with everything. When I was working with Tanya on Deadpool, Tanya was open to a lot of collaboration and a lot of my ideas that I wanted to bring to the game. And that was actually really fun to work with him on that because we would work in sort of a way where he had a lot of the game laid out, and then he let me drill down into a lot of the details about certain modes and rules and even stuff we were doing with the display system and sound system and stuff like that. So we worked really well together on that project, and he covered, he's lead developer, so he has to cover the whole game and be responsible for the whole game. But, I was there on that project for so long, taking a look at big chunks of that game and, really kind of following it in its development of, here's what's happening here, here's what's happening here, and bringing it all together to the finish line when we package ship the games.
Are you really 25 years old? Is that real?
I turned 26 in April.
Oh my gosh. I just pulled up your IFPA player profile because I was curious what you're ranked right now. And it's 118th, by the way. And when I saw 25 years old, I nearly threw my computer across the room. That's okay. Well, I think it's really an interesting story about you coming on at this time of growth for Stern when they are bringing in a lot of new people and new blood. And I think it is interesting because you were very active in streaming pinball, so you were diving deep into rule sets and learning how to play at a high level. Just going through your tournament results, you've clearly had some great success. in the competitive world. So it's interesting. When you started working with Steve, I'm assuming he had a story in mind for this game.
Yeah, he did. Well, Steve had when I started working with him, he had this really like major complex toy in mind that he really wanted to drive a lot of this game. And he wanted to have this like custom sculpted Black Knight physically on the playfield with this huge presence in the game. And he wanted to have this crazy flail, motorized flail toy that sort of, you know, accelerates the ball in one direction, bashes the ball in the other direction, and really creates chaos. If you ever played a Steve Ritchie game, you know, he likes it to be fast and sometimes brutal with the way he puts things in there. He just wants the ball to be high speed, high energy all around the playfield. So that was the main thing he had put in the game. And then he gave the other hand of the Black Knight a shield. That shield actually, when we started playing with it, became really interesting the way it could actually bash the ball back down, give it a lot of energy, sometimes slams it right down the middle when you're not expecting it. And so he had put that toy in there, you know, which was a really key part of the game, and he had put that lightning wheel in there too, but Steve didn't come up with, you know, what are those inserts named or what are they supposed to be. He leaves a lot of that stuff up to his game developer, which is my role, and I worked with him on just a couple ideas that I was thinking about, and a couple of my first ideas weren't that good, so I threw them out until I came up with better ideas. And then, yeah, I'd work with Steve and said, here's what I'm thinking, and he's like, no, spruce it up a little bit, you know, change this to this, change this to this. So we eventually came up with a pretty solid outline plan of who the characters in the game were, who the player was, and then together went through and said, okay, these are what these shots mean, this is what I'm calling this is what the insert text is going to say, this is how you're going to start multi-ball, this is how you're going to start the other multi-ball, this is how the spell out's going to work, yada, 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 all sort of stuff. That's part of the game development process. But it was always, Steve put a lot of trust into me, and I think he's always put a lot of trust into his software guys to, you know, fill out the game from the layout he works on.
Yeah.
And he always wants to be involved in, you know, what you're doing, what's going on, what's included, what's not. But he does give me, and I assume he's given other people, a lot of freedom to, you know, really fill out the details and the effects of the game.
So you sent me a kind of a brief overview of the story of the game. So the player's attempting to basically work his way to attack the Black Castle and defeat the Skeleton Army.
Yeah, there's the players. So the perspective of you, the person playing the pinball machine, is that you're always looking just at your target or at the enemy in front of you. So the Black Knight is like the big boss of the game. He's the guy that he's hard to defeat because he is so powerful, and he keeps putting, you know, his first level of minions, which are his skeleton army, in front of you to sort of trip you up on your way. So with the skeleton army, we have a few events in the game, like, you know, the war hurry up comes back in this game as like a 3-in-1 hurry up. And you're faced with some skeletons, which each have unique weapons, and you have to battle them. If you get through all 3 war hurry-ups, then you can get to the Black Knight. But then, you know, if you don't get him in time, then he'll speed away back to the castle. And we also have these monsters who guard these different realms, which are sort of akin to, like, video game will have different levels with different mini-boss fights leading up to, like, the big bad guy in the main castle in the game. So we have like an environment that's a greenish swamp with a Hydra monster that comes out. And we have an environment that's like a frozen wasteland where these Lich Lords come to life from their frozen rocks and start attacking the player. And the player in this situation is always just like you're a hero with a sword, and you're sort of drawn to these different areas to cleanse these different areas from the Black Knight's power, because he's really controlling these lands and he's controlling the monsters with his power and his sort of rage. And eventually, if you knock them all out, then finally you get the power in your sword to go head-to-head against the Black Knight in his throne room for like a big final battle wizard mode scene in the Black Castle. And then the other stuff that fills out the game... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I love it. I love hearing this.
Yeah, so the other stuff that fills out the game with the skeletons and the multi-balls are sort of different sequences that are also taking place while this is happening. So there's a skeleton army, and they're sort of getting in place, and they're protecting the castle because, off sort of away from you because you're on your own mission is this big battle scene that's about to take place with the Black Knight and his skeleton army versus a human resistance group that's trying to launch their catapults at the Black Knight's castle. And that's the theme of the upper playfield, is this catapult battle scene where these people are launching these flaming arrows and these catapult projectiles at the castle and at the skeleton army, while the skeletons are coming back on foot with their weapons, their spears and their knives and their maces, and trying to attack you. And then there's even another mode, or another multi-ball still, that's on both models of the game, where you're also trying to infiltrate the Black Knight's keep to get to his money that presumably he stole from all the kids playing Black Knight 2000 and Black Knight on Location back in the day.
That's fantastic.
Or even now still.
That's fantastic. I like that a lot. I see the money in between the flippers.
Yeah, that's his goal. He keeps a lot of it in his castle and his keep. Not sure what he spends it on yet. Maybe we'll need to make another game to see what he does. But he's definitely very wealthy, very powerful, and very evil. I don't think there's any question about that when you play the game.
Well, I think the point, though, when somebody's that evil, they don't actually spend the money. They just want all the money so that nobody else can have the money. He doesn't need the money.
Yeah, and it looks cool to swim in your swimming pool of gold coins.
I just have a feeling if I ever did get to jump off like a high like level into a big thing of gold coins, it wouldn't be Scrooge McDuck. Scrooge the Duck? McDuck? What's his name? I think it would hurt.
Yeah, Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, that would not go well. I think the physics are lying to you in those cartoons. I think that would be a bad scene. Just a thought. So, let me ask you this. Did you go back and play the first two Black Knight games before you dove into this? Did you use them as any reference point in your work?
Absolutely, yeah. I was very familiar with those games. I didn't own them, but I've played a lot of Black Knight and a lot of Black Knight 2000. And actually, Tanyo Kleiss, one of our other software engineers here at Stern, had both of those games. And for a while, he brought them in to Stern to play them. But like I said, since Black Knight 2000 was one of those first games I played, and I was trying to get into pinball, one of the first things I did when I got into pinball was I went on the computer and downloaded, I think it was Visual Pinball. I don't think Pinball Arcade was out yet. And I got some Black Knight 2000 tables to sort of learn okay, top lanes advance your bonus X, and war starts this hurry up here, and extra balls lit on this and this. So I was learning rules of a game of that era. Of course, when I started working on this project, I took a deep dive into just little subtle details that you don't even pick up on, how is that light show working on the drop targets on those games? Because we've got drop targets here with the same inserts in front of them, so I copied off that light show from that one. And how are the lightning wheel effects working on Black Knight 2000? How's that sound working for the bonus screen and how it's all choreographed? I've done a lot of research into just the soundtrack of Black Knight 2000 and how that was all done by Dan Forden and Steve Ritchie and Brian Schmidt on that game, where everything falls on the beat or the quarter beat with every single switch you hit. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool package they could do with that sort of soundtrack. We've got a different sound system now, so we don't play things through MIDI. We just play things as all sample-based.
Yep.
So it's a little different now, but I wanted to make sure that some key things in the game package from Black Knight 2000 and Black Knight were carried over to now. So I wanted to make sure that, the speech was awesome and really powerful and great and had a nice impact like it had in the previous two games, because that was a huge part of those games.
Yeah.
And also that the soundtrack just kicked ass. And we were definitely able to do that on this game, which I'm really happy with.
So I don't know all the answers to all of this because we're recording this a few days before the big release. Did Steve do the voice of the Black Knight?
Yes, Steve did the voice of the Black Knight.
Okay, good. Then all is right with the world. That's good. Did you, when you were programming the rules and going through this, I mean, so obviously there's a Magna save on here, which is cool and very classic from the older games. Did you think of anything that you wanted to add that you thought, okay, this is like my little piece of like pinball rules that are going to go in here that's maybe never been done before, not as common, or something that you kind of feel you'll be able to point to later and go, see, I did that there?
I got two answers on this, actually, because first I'll say you brought up Magna Save, and Steve was the one who actually said, like, I want Magna Save to be a little more meaningful now. I want you to be able to do some tricks where you, like, hit Magna Save, then move the insert to the right in lane to collect the Magna Save bonus, and that the, like, more challenging it is to set up, then the more points it's worth. So Steve was particular about making the Magna Save feature a little more interesting. But for the rest of the game, I mean, my signature thing, I don't know. It's sort of the whole package, but what I do try to do on games, or one thing I try to do, is just to bring in some concepts from like classic 90s games or even 2000s games, arcade style games that have like modifiers or power-ups that you can unlock through skill to make your modes or your multi-balls a little more interesting. And we usually do stuff like that anyhow in our games with playfield multiplier rules or like time jackpots or something like that. But I do try to do something like that. So on this game, we have what we call like the power feature. And on your UI, you'll have a sword on the UI that'll get charged up as you progress through the game. And you can save that fully charged sword until like the moment you want it, which is going to be in one of those modes, and hit that center target to activate like a supercharged mode where everything's worth more points. All the shots are a little bit easier. There's more shots to hit. And I want to get to the point in all the games where, you know, if you're a player who's playing it over and over again, you're just trying to get to that perfect moment where, you know, you've got everything going, everything's firing on all cylinders without it being the only thing to do in the game. Like, I'd have a path in the game where you can still recover and you can still get back to the way, you know, that awesome moment feels in the game. So like an obtainable combination of stuff going on in the game in the modern pinball rule set that really makes you feel like I did that and it was awesome. So we've got a lot of stackable multi-balls with modes and some other features, and then some interesting skill paths that you could take in there to push your luck and press things. It all just works together in a cool way, I think.
I know you're part of like a pretty tight-knit group of some of the Northeastern guys who all, you know, competed together, and I'm sure now in Chicago. Do you feel like pressure to write rules that you know, like, the best players in the world are going to appreciate and take apart, you know, on commentary as this game gets played in big tournaments? And like you said, we've all probably seen a pinball tournament where somebody works up to a certain mode, and I don't have a great example of this right off the bat, but then literally they kind of, like, I think in like Whitewater. Whitewater's a game where you can kind of lock yourself out of the big points, and if you have to catch up, it can just be like the biggest wood chopping session ever. So I think that's probably something you're thinking about, but do you feel that pressure to sort of impress the best players with the rules you're writing for this game?
Less about the best players, because I sort of feel like as long as the game has paths that make sense and a progression that makes sense and the scoring makes sense indefinitely, then they're going to be fine with it. I'm much more concerned with people having a good experience as soon as they hit the start button here, because that's the part of the game that even the top players are always, you know, even a player who can get to a wizard mode 10% of the time is always playing that first little section of the game, like the very beginning. So that has to be as intuitive to them as it is to a player who's just getting into pinball or just casually playing pinball. So the first focus is always going to be on what's close to the start button and communicating what the player, you know, should do or what's going to lead them to cool stuff. The part about the tournament players, it's like, yes, that's sort of a concern, but it's more of a concern in the way that some rule sets, like just thinking about the history of pinball rule sets and games and having a nice archive of knowledge of that, some rule sets just don't allow a player to come back, like Whitewater, like you said, or some games just, if you don't do the thing, you're pretty much done. You might as well restart the game. And you just don't want to design a feature like that into the game anymore. I just think that sort of design philosophy fell out of favor after the 90s in pinball design anyhow. So I just try to incorporate, like, really study all the things that I know about pinball rule sets, learn as much as I can from people here who have made games over and over again, get feedback from people, and just integrate everything to be like, we know that this is, a fun contemporary rule set, and that these are the things like you need the player to have the ability to come back. You can't have anyone walk away, but you need the player to have fun right away. That's a guarantee.
So in this game, if I was like showing somebody, pinball for one of the first times, what would you give them in like the 10-second, like, okay, what do I do? What's the, okay, what do I do to Black Knight, Sword of Rage?
Some people, if they want that overview, I would tell them. But a lot of people, I just watch how people play the game too, especially if it's like I can grab someone on the sales side of our building who, like, hey, it's your first chance to flip it, and just see what they do. And a lot of people just go for those main three toys in the middle, which is the flail, the Black Knight, and the shield. And that's the correct thing to do as far as I'm concerned, because that's how you activate your modes in multi-balls.
Okay.
Bash the flail, go behind the flail to advance your realm, and then get past the shield to lock balls and to start modes. And those are the main two things. It's multi-ball, and then the realm modes that are on the wheel are the main features of the game. Once you're in a mode, then you'll have shot rules, and you'll have, an atmosphere to the game, new graphics, new music. You'll know, like, okay, something's happening. This is important. You'll be getting big points by making your mode shots. And then multi-ball, you'll know that that's what you want to do, because you'll have 3 balls in play and you'll be hitting jackpot shots.
Totally.
So that's like the main thing in the game. Outside of that, there's other features that eventually you can learn about, but it doesn't have to be your first game. Like stacking your super features together, building up your super feature collect bonus, building up your war lanes and your war hurry-up scores through the pop bumpers. There's other stuff that'll fill out the game later, but those main shots in the middle are going to be the key to starting the main features of the game.
You talked about sort of setting up environments when you get into certain modes, and I looked at some of the animations you sent me, and first of all, they're creepy. Like, yikes. Which is cool. This game's metal. This is Black Knight Sword of Rage. See, I got it. And clearly a lot of time and effort has gone into these, and I thought that the last couple releases that I've gotten to play, you can see that evolution and the work being done inside Stern on the LED screens, LCD screens, excuse me. I'm going to get this right. Talk about the work there, and there's clearly a team inside the company working really hard to get these done. Give me a little insight into that part of the game.
Yeah, sure. So even since I've been here, Stern and George's organization, which is the product development team, which covers everything that goes into the development of the game, which now includes the LCD screen. They've been working on increasing the staffing on both software and on the art side of things. So our motion graphics team has grown by a ton. We have more full-time people here, more contractors, more part-time people here, just whatever we need to get it done. And we've upgraded a couple people recently to full-time employees. 2 key people that were on this game was actually Josh Clay, who is the art director for the motion graphics team on the Black Knight Sword of Rage game. He was a former Chicago tattoo artist who came to Stern for a little while as a contractor, as a technical artist, and then he's been bumped up to full-time technical artist, and then bumped up to art lead on this project because of the skill and value he brings in, and his ability to understand, what a pinball machine needs, how to make the most impact on the machine, and also his organization of the rest of the art team to get the art to where a level of where it is right now on Stern's games, where the packages are really cohesive and nice and interesting and powerful on all the games. Denai is another guy who came on board after I had started full time, but he'd been working on a few games as a contractor before this. So he came on full time, and he's the one responsible for the concept art for pretty much every character in the game except for the Black Knight, for all the monsters on the LCD screen, including the skeletons and the 5 monsters in the different environments. And he also did the 3D environments, 3D models, 3D texturing all the models and animating them for a lot of the scenes.
So what came first?
The rest of the team,
those characters designed first, and then the playfield art, or was their playfield art done separately, or how does that work?
So Kevin O'Connor had been working on this game first, and he had come up with some of the pieces of the game. He had redesigned the Black Knight completely, as well as his weapons, and he created the skeleton army, he created the castle, he created a lot of those main core elements that we replicated on the screen. But there were just some other things, because he's doing like these 3 cohesive packages for Pro, Premium, and LE, plus the playfield for all of them. And they had these distinct themes to them. So the Pro is like this interior castle with the skeletons and the gold around the Pro package on the sides and back glass and back box and all the other stuff he has to do. The Premium had like the swordsman package, and that's where he created the Sword of Rage weapon that the Black Knight has. And then the LE with the mirrored black glass has the battle package, which is sort of that main battle you get with that upper playfield multi-ball, which we call a catapult multi-ball in the game, where you've got the flaming arrows coming and the catapults launching things, and the Black Knight's on his horse with the skeletons surrounding him in this like epic battle scene. So he created all those packages, and then while we had incorporated those elements in the game, we also wanted to give something a little bit extra that you actually get inside the game to experience. Some art that was special for people who were playing the game that they wouldn't just get to see by looking at pictures of the game. They actually have to play it and experience it, and that would help bring them in a little more to, hey, why are you playing this game? Why are you attacking this guy? Because he's an ugly monster. That's pretty simple right there. Yeah.
That's cool.
But, yeah.
What's integrating with the 3D graphics like for you from a rule set? What drives what? Are you like basing things you do off of what they could potentially do? Are you asking them to, create graphics to go with your modes, or is it sort of done in tandem? How does that process work?
So playfield's the thing that has to, for me at least, has to drive the rules, and then the rules after that drive the art. So in the rules, I'm coming up with, hey, I sort of want you to be, like, I want you to be in these different environments. I want you to do something in these different environments. And we had gone through just sort of some ideas of what, like, together we had come up with the idea that creating these very compelling, color-coded different environments would be an interesting mechanic in the game. But then we had to decide, how do you get there? What do you do when you're there? What does it look like on the screen? So a little bit has been me sort of understanding how animation's been done in the past and present, and then deciding on what I call like a DMD style animation style, which might not make sense, but it's basically that, if you're going to get any award, it's going to pop as like a full screen award with a really impactful shot and a score on the display. Then when you're back to like, you're in the mode, you have like the background effect, and then every single shot award, boom, that's a new full screen thing. Not really a lot of subtle, like, here's a little bit of something coming in. It's like the full screen effect, the maximum impact on every single shot that you get to kind of make you feel like, oh, I did that. That was satisfying, and look at the points I got from it.
Nice.
So I was always thinking about that. And then the story of the game, we had talked about coming up with these different areas, and we had settled on some of the skeleton scenes and some of the battle scenes, and we were coming up with which monsters we should put in the different environments. And that was actually done by Denai, who does concept art for the different environments. So what I might be able to show later is like the evolution of like the liches, the lich lords, where they go from like just a couple sketches that he painted out. Then I picked some elements that I thought were cool from them, and then he did like a full color concept in 3D. Then once we approved that, me and Steve approved that, then they went on integrating him into an environment. And then I said, this is what I want for the attacks. And we had Tom Kizavat do a lot of the 2D animation on the attacks to sort of merge of 3D, 2D animation for those display effects. So you got like the cool background plus like the maximum impact shot up close, the high res shot. And after they sort of got what I was saying, they really were able to roll with it with the template we came up with and then deliver just like the maximum impact for those couple videos we laid out for every single mode.
Nice.
So they were the ones who sort of solved the problem of like how to make it look cool. And then I said, this is how we trigger it, and this is what I want to happen when it triggers.
Nice. Does the game remind you of any other game? You've played just about every pinball machine made in the last 40 years. Do you play it and think, oh, this is kind of like anything?
That's an interesting question. Let me think. I really think it stands out, at least in this era of games, because it is like it is pretty much just like the ultimate metal concept album was put on a pinball machine right now when you play it. It's like there's just awesome monsters and bad guys, and it's like it could be a comic book game, it could be a music game, it could be whatever, it could be a video game. So it's a lot of everything, but I think to me it feels the most like a music pin, like an Iron Maiden or like a Metallica or something like that, because the music's such a driving part of it. Even though you're not selecting your song or picking your soundtrack, the music's such a driving part of it, and it sets the tone for that energy in the game. And then the rest of the stuff sort of following that audio experience is just more awesomeness that matches that intensity. That's what it feels like to me. But the character is also really important too. So that would make it even more like a comic book game where like main guy's the Black Knight and he's taunting you, and he's constantly talking to the player and stuff. So it is a little bit of everything to me. It's hard to say.
It's a nice package. I played the music clips you sent before we got on the call here, and I was just listening to him in the room, and I thought, wow, like that sounds like when I say a real guitar player, I mean like, I play guitar, but I'm not like a real guitar player. And I heard that, I'm like, that's a real guitar player. And then when you sent me sort of the summary email here, I was like, oh yeah, that's Scott Ian from Anthrax. That makes perfect sense. How did that partnership come about?
That's been like, there's been a lot of awesome stuff, but that's definitely up there of like one of the most awesome things to do on this game. That was through our director of licensing, Jody Dankberg.
I figured that was a Jody guy.
Came up to me and said, yeah, he's like, hey, you guys we were looking for someone to do the music. We didn't know who it was going to be. Steve did compose some of the songs on the previous game, but with his hearing loss, unfortunately, he's having a little more trouble playing guitar, hearing the music he's playing.
Yeah. So
we were sort of exploring some options, and I was asking around at work of, if you guys knew any guitar players, I'd be willing to compose stuff. And Jody said, well, why don't you get Scott Ian to do it? And I said, Scott Ian of Anthrax? He's like, yeah. So we gave him a phone call, and he was on tour at the time. And we were saying, like, look, here's the time frame of the game. We're looking for this much music. Do you think you'd be able to do it? And he's like, oh, yeah, I got some time. So it took a little while for us. Like, I had outlined just, okay, here's some themes I want to capture from the Black Knight 2000 soundtrack. But I really want him to sort of do his own thing and then, take a listen to it and see what it is. And then, so we waited a little while, and he was on his tour, and he got back, and I got a note from Jody, like, Scott says he's working on it this week, and I'm like, oh man, I hope it's coming. I hope it's gonna be good. And then he sent us that first like Black Knight main theme, but his version of it, and we were like, wow, this is spectacular. This exceed, like, we know he's a professional, but this exceeded our expectations somehow, even of like how much he crushed the soundtrack. And then just piece after piece started coming in that I had outlined, like, all right, in this mode you're battling a fire monster in a lava environment. Go. He's like, how does this sound? I'm like, awesome.
That sounds like a fire monster. That's nice. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He's like, all right, in this mode, this is a battle where you're a bunch of catapults obliterating skeletons. He's like, all right, I got it. Boom. Another piece comes in. We're like, this is awesome.
That's fantastic.
And I gave him a few notes even of like stuff I really loved from the Black Knight 2000 soundtrack. And the one piece, in addition to the main theme, that I thought was like really awesome was that Last Chance Jackpots song. The one where like you go down to single ball play after the multi-ball, and you got the like dun 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 dun, and it just keeps building. You're like, oh no, I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
And so I said, like, can you do like a version of this? And then he's like, and I said, and do another version after that with a key change. He said, okay, sure. So he took that theme and he changed it to a major key, and then he added even more to it. So when you're in the war hurry up mode, you get like that same sort of like intensity of like the dun 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 dun, but done in a major key this time, and then you beat that level of war hurry ups, and then there's another one that comes in, and the way I had outlined it, he just perfectly nailed it. We like, yep, perfect, ship it. That's like exactly what we wanted. No changes required. And those moments are really cool when you're developing the game of like, yep, everything fell together perfectly, and we knocked it out of the park.
That's fantastic. So we'll see what else I got in notes. Tell me your quick, I know you're not in sales, but let's pretend you're in sales right now. Pro versus Premium LE. What are our major differences here on these two games from your viewpoint?
So I think the first thing you notice with Pro versus the Premium LE is the Pro is the one that doesn't have an upper playfield. So Premium and LE, you still have the Black Knight tradition, which is you have a 2-level playfield with a 3-ball lock on that upper playfield. We've carried that tradition over. But if people are going, oh shucks, I want an upper playfield, what is different about these games is that there's a full playfield, full Pro Stern playfield underneath both of those games, and that's something you didn't have on either of the previous games. You sort of have, maybe you have 1 and 1.25 playfields total, but it's sort of split in a way where it's not really 2 playfields. It's like half of a bottom playfield, half of a top playfield on those games.
It was almost a step. It was like a step up more than like a upper playfield.
Yeah, and it provides you with like a little bit of safety when you're up there, but there's a lot of exits, and on both of those games, when you're down on the lower playfield, there's a little bit of a feeling like, oh man, I just want to get back to the upper playfield. There's not so much to do on the lower playfield of those games on some of the settings. Yep. So someone could argue that on Black Knight, like, yeah, you turn the locks to hard, then you want to shoot that dangerous lock shot. It's like, yeah, but once you do that, back up to the upper playfield and you stay up there for the rest of the game. So this one, definitely when you play it, both of them, like when you start playing the Pro, you're going to go like, oh, this feels like a really fast, really flowing game. It has the really interactive toys. This feels like a full game. And then the Premium and LE, what that sort of adds to it is like this extra strategy level, extra rule set, extra multi-ball, plus some other, cool combos you can do with the upper loop shot, which goes really fast around the playfield, the upper playfield. And that sort of just takes it a little bit to the next level. But I mean, if you want the Pro is awesome. If you want the Premium, yeah, the Premium's awesome. The Premium's better in my opinion because you get the ability to get a 6-ball multi-ball. Like you can actually stack those 2 multi-balls together with whatever else you could stack together. And that's awesome. Like you pull the trigger on like, get this multi-ball lined up, boom, 6 balls in play like pretty early in the game. that feels really good.
That's very
And
cool.
you've got 3 flippers up there, so it's not as it's not like 6 balls are all on the lower playfield. You've got the plunge up into the upper playfield with the auto plunger. So you've got that plunger up there to shoot some jackpots and super jackpots in the other multi-ball, plus you'll have a few more down on the lower playfield. And it kind of has that Munsters effect where you've got a crazy amount of balls in play, but you've got sort of everything managed with where the balls are, that you can go like, focus here, focus here, focus here, focus here, and jump back and forth between which one you're focusing on to get all the excitement out of those 2 multi-balls. But with saying that, I want to say, like, the Pro is a fast game, and like it's in your face too. And there's still a lot of stuff on the Pro where, you shoot a ramp and whips right back down to the in lane. You shoot a shot, back to that ramp, back to the in lane, sets up a combo shot, bam, you whack the shield, it fires it, hopefully to a flipper, not down the middle, all that sort of stuff. Like, you're on your toes the whole time you're playing the Pro. And then the Premium gives you a little more time to relax, but it's also got like that extra intensity of like, when do I pull the trigger on this stuff? And can I get this all stuff lined up perfectly for that perfect 6-ball multi-ball moment? So I think they're both awesome. It is like 2 different games, but I think I've worked it into the rules in a way that makes a lot of sense for, what you're going to get out of getting the Premium versus the Pro. Nice. Without feeling like you're missing out when you have a Pro.
That's cool. That's very cool. Are you gonna own one of these? Are you gonna take one home?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm getting one. I've already talked to George about it. Getting a game off the line, getting it to my apartment in Chicago, and just playing it. It's my first game. Like, I can't, as a pinball fan who now works in the pinball industry, I can't not get a game that I've worked on.
Totally.
To experience in my home.
So, what's been like? What was surprising to you about coming to Stern and diving into pinball as your career?
A lot of things, to be honest. As you said, I was working at IBM before, and at IBM, that's a big company. It's like the ultimate workplace where
definitely,
you've got a boss, he's got a boss, she's got a boss, and up the chain of command.
A lot of redundancy, big offices with lots of people doing the same job.
Right. You're way down on the totem pole.
Yeah.
Here, Stern isn't a small company at this point anymore, but it's much smaller, and you have way more interaction with everyone you work with, because we're all here in Elk Grove Village. We're a manufacturing company that just so happens to have a full game development studio.
Yeah,
constantly churning out new titles.
Absolutely.
So it's a one of a kind experience that way, but also the talent we have here. The talent George has brought to product development, either back from the industry, from the past, or, with Steve's been working in the industry for 40 years developing pinball machines, but also finding the new talent. I think you've got like a really good energy right now in the office where everyone's interested in what other people are working on. Everyone's really helpful. Everyone's excited about what we have coming next. We really have these awesome licenses. We have these talented people in design, in software, in electrical, in art, in mechanical development. And I think there's just, and George has talked about this too, there's like a really nice buzz now every single day in the engineering area where people are talking, they're laughing, they're excited, they're coming up with cool ideas, and they're making things better every single day. There's a lot of good momentum in the office, and that was something I didn't really have in any previous like jobs or internships I worked in. Everything was more of like, day to day here, this is what we do. And this is like everything we do at Stern, people get to see it really quickly. Yeah. And people love it. It's like this really cool, entertaining toy game. And now when a game comes out, like people want to go to these launch parties. They want to see it right away. We get dozens and dozens and dozens of people at every launch party in Chicago. We do simultaneously like, dozens and dozens of launch parties around the country. And yeah, it's it's just really exciting to see, like, hey, I made that, and everyone's saying, like, oh, this is awesome, this is great, I love it.
That's great to hear.
And they like the themes we're doing, they like the games we're making, so it's really cool.
That's awesome. Are you deep at work at another game, or are you still kind of finishing up things with this game? Where does the software sit on this game, I guess is what I'm really asking you.
I'm still deep in work on this game. This game is 100% of my commitment because I'm the lead developer. So I'm responsible for seeing it through, 100%. That's just sort of how it's organized here. So, like, while, Dwight's currently, getting monsters polished to 1.0 and then fixing anything else that'll come up, I'm going to be in that same position where, the game's going to come out. I'm not exactly sure what number we're going to be coming out yet, but it's going to be, close in like the high 0.8 or maybe low 0.9 territory. And then we have features that we're going to add to the initial release of the premium and LE that'll bring both games up a little bit more. But I'll be making sure that, this game's getting to 1.0 as soon as I can with all the features that I planned and all the polish and all the stuff that really makes it shine the best it can. So now my day-to-day, every single day here at Stern, I'm managing a lot of people because there's a lot of support people. There's a lot of artists. We're all working on this project right now. This is the thing that's coming, right out the door right now. This is the next game. So George always makes sure that we have the resources we need to get the games in the best shape they can, leaving Stern. And I'm, eventually a lot of those people helping me, they'll move on and I'll be responsible for really getting the code to the best point it can be at.
So
that's 100% job.
I think it would be a great idea for you right now to just lock in with me on this show a date that you can confirm that Software 1.0 will for sure be launched. That's what we should do right now. No,
absolutely not.
No, I didn't think that. Tell me a little bit more about that. I'm super curious. I know that's a terrible idea. Who decides what's code 0.95, 0.96, 1.0? Is that you? Or are you the one that says this is 1.0 final?
Yeah, I have an outline of every feature and what status it's at for each game milestone that I laid out a while ago. Now, sometimes the plan changes a little bit and some features have to be moved up. Some features have to be moved back because we don't have the resources or we're waiting for stuff. Different things might hang us up. Sometimes, we've got a last minute change here where it's like, oh, this thing's going to be changing to this thing, that'll slow you down, or we'll discover some problem that we have to solve with software later on. So things slow it down. I think people who work in software development and game development know that. And then we also need test time too. And we have, Mike Vinacore here testing the game right now. And so it's hard to find bugs sometimes. So you never know what's going to come out later that you need to fix. But I'm the one who lays out, here's the outline to 1.0 and decides this is when I can call it 1.0. This is when it's complete. And my plan is to get it there as soon as I can, but I don't want people to miss out on anything that should make it into the game, and also to have a rotten experience with any bugs or any scoring imbalances either. So as that stuff comes up, we'll work on it, or I'll work on it to make sure it's the best it could be. Totally. So there's my long wishy-washy answer when 1.0 is coming.
I expect nothing less. Sure. No, that's great.
Yeah. I absolutely have a plan to get there. I have, there's only so much I can work because it's not like I'm doing 40-hour weeks. I'm here much longer than that, putting as much effort as I can. But a lot of the job is making sure everyone's on the right track and focused to the same goal, and that everyone's supported on the project. So there's just a lot of pieces falling into place, and it's all going to get there, and it's going to be pretty spectacular.
I like it. Do you have competitive pinball plans for 2019?
Yes. I did get my Pinburg tickets already. Will you be at Pinburg this year?
I will. Yes, I got in. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you there again this year. I won't be playing in, but I will be helping run the New York City Pinball Championships once again in May.
Some good news
We're
coming
sold out
of
on that right
I heard that. I heard the streaming rigs are going to be awesome from what I hear.
Yeah, we just announced a new partnership with Backhand Pinball. They're going to be streaming the event, and we're going to have some big focuses on the presentation. I haven't been as heavily involved with that this year because I've been working so hard on this game, and I've been pretty much just, grinding away on this game, getting it to where I want it to be. But I will be there for New York City, and then for the summertime, things will start to open up a little bit, once we're at 1.0 and whatever, and I'll be able to head to more pinball tournaments and get back on the circuit. And I'll just look at the calendar and see, yeah, that looks fun. Book my flight.
Nice. When you look out at the future, I'm sure you kind of know what's coming from Stern down the road, but looking at the team they've assembled with all the great designers currently there, is there somebody you want to work with? Is there somebody you're looking at going, oh man, I hope I get to do one of his games?
That's a good question. I'll answer it not the way you've asked, which is a habit of mine. But I'll say, there's pretty much no designer here. There isn't any designer here that I wouldn't want to work with. I think every single designer we have on our team really brings a lot to the table. They've got their own set of new ideas that they want to try out. Everyone's really excited about new technologies. They're up to date on that. They're up to date on new licenses, new themes, and they all are, they all have really good qualities about them. And I don't think you can look at the past few Stern games and find a weak link. I think every single game that's come out has been so strong that should be pretty clear that, everyone's really firing on all cylinders we have on the team here. But yeah, everyone, I'm happy to work with whoever on the next project, even if it's back in a support role or as lead again. There's just nothing bad I can say about people here.
That's good. That's cool. I appreciate the answer. Well, man, is there anything else we need to cover? Did we miss anything? This is an exciting day. New game day. Your first game as lead designer. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting. Let me think. I don't know. It's as of now, since we're recording it a little early, I don't know what the reaction is, but
it's all positive. No one will say anything bad about anything. There's nothing, no possible criticism out there. Just don't get on the internet. No, I think it's
Well, I know that. Yeah, sorry. I know that when people can only imagine what the gameplay is like until they play the game. So, my perspective is I've been playing the game every single day for months and months and months and seeing it come along, and people are going to see pictures, they're going to see videos, they're going to hear music, but they're not going to get everything right away, and they'll listen to podcasts and all that stuff. But that experience when they get up and actually play the game, that's what actually matters.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So if anyone's, saying anything negative or even positive about it before they've played it, eventually everyone's going to play it, and that's what really counts. And that's where I'll be a little more interested in seeing, where is this game right now? How do people like it? And then, just try to get it to where I want it to be in the software as soon as I can, so people are experiencing the game exactly how I want them to, and then getting that sort of judgment. But I think it's really a good package. Overall, this is it's not an unlicensed game, but it's a character Steve's creation. Sort of, the Black Knight's a character that exists in general folklore, but Steve's really created his version of the Black Knight, and I think he brought it to the next level of this game, without a doubt. And people are really going to want to see more of this version of the Black Knight after its hiatus, and they're really going to understand, oh yeah, this was a great theme to pick. This was awesome.
That's cool. That's awesome. Tim, I really appreciate you spending time and coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have to do this again in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. I'm very enthusiastic.
It's going to be awesome, man. I will see you. I'll see you this summer in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, see you at Pittsburgh.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
I really enjoyed talking with Tim on episode 249 of Coast to Coast Pinball. A very cool look into the behind the scenes at the world's largest pinball manufacturer. Good stuff. Friendly listener, thank you for being here. Until next time, which is like right away, play some more pinball, take care of yourselves, be nice to each other. Later.